I've been caught in a web of chaos. For the last 2 weeks, I felt like I was spiraling. What I'm realizing now is that it was a nasty case of self-sabotage. In this video, I'm going to show you how to break that cycle and reconnect with your power. Collectively, we've all been in survival mode. And personally, I've been witnessing my self-sabotage firsthand. I've had a series of financial triggers over the last few months, and it almost seemed like a universal joke. For the last 2 or 3 months on different credit cards and subscription platforms, I've had my bank account connected as usual, made my regular payments on time, and then was told on my next statement that I had double the payment charge in late fees. I was told that I was having late payments. I was told that my credit score was dropping because of it. And I was so confused. And this kept happening to me from the end of November, literally up until this past week. I never make late payments. That's not something that I've done in so long. And that used to be my reality. That used to be my only option. And I've worked so hard to maintain stability and never be in that position again. So not only were these messages false, but I felt extra triggered by this. And with this happening over and over and over again, sometimes even fixing it and then having it happen again with the exact same service or software month after month after month, I was beginning to feel like I was in the middle of a cosmic joke. I honestly started to crash out, and all of my ugliest beliefs and habits were resurfacing. I glued myself to the couch, I smoked more, I avoided planning, and I kept doom scrolling, which added to the amount of fear, which added to the amount of uncertainty, which added to how ungrounded I felt. I started to reconsider going to France for the writer's residency that I was accepted to, and after writing about how I felt, I experienced kind of a magical and really weird shift. I was at the library because I had to print something, and I had to speak with a librarian about the printer then having issues. The issue made them offer to print my documents for free. I finally picked up my document and I went to find my partner who was browsing around. He told me he saw me over the phone, so I stopped to wait for him, and right in front of me was a book called Rewire. It was all about breaking cycles, and I haven't read a self-help book in so long, but it just felt so aligned that I picked it up right away. Checking out that book, honestly, was kind of a weird shift for me. It all happened in just the matter of a minute, and I realized in that moment when I got my documents printed for free that the inconvenience of the printer not working ended up allowing me to feel more abundant. Just like when I was waiting for the librarian to help me, I started thinking about everything that I had just written about on my GoFundMe about not being able to go to France, and how in a weird way that trip and the residency acceptance pushed me to recognize my abundance in the first place. And by not going, I was able to feel more abundant and make better decisions in my business. The day that I'm recording this, I had to take my car into the shop, and they gave me a call and said that the shop was so backed up, so they had to give me a brand new free rental car and a free Uber to go pick it up. And all of a sudden I realized that all these inconveniences that I was stressing about and worried about were actually kind of side pathways to abundance. And as I began to distance myself from the chaos that I was feeling, I was finally able to recognize the cycle for what it was. It wasn't evil eye. It wasn't a random spurt of bad luck. It was self-sabotage. If you're the black sheep, the cycle breaker, or the parentified eldest daughter, you're in the right place. Welcome to Becoming Enough, empowering black sheep and cycle breakers to remember their worth. I'm Roshni, your host, and the founder of Black Sheep Experience. Through coaching, spiritual offerings, and guided resources, I teach you how to regain your sense of self-worth after surviving your toxic childhood. Visit blacksheepexperience.com to work together one-on-one or to find additional resources. Your experience as the black sheep is unique, and it's time we finally started to talk about it. The very first step every single time whenever you are spiraling, overwhelmed, overthinking, just not quite being like yourself, is to call your power back. And the reason that's so important is because you don't actually know how much of this energy is your own, right? You probably have experienced when you are in a large crowd, or you're around that one like energy sucking coworker, or you're just constantly watching all of the horrific things happening on the news. Like, there is so much information coming at us. And remember that the point right now of all of this, in addition to being informed, is also being overwhelmed and being frozen in fear, truly. But we need to understand how much of this energy is our own versus how much of it is coming from other sources. So the first thing that you want to do is actually call your power back, and to just straight up name that, right? So if you are sitting down and watching with me inside, you can close down your eyes and put your hand over your chest. If you are driving, you don't have to close your eyes or anything, obviously, but you can still call this out in the moment. It doesn't have to necessarily take that long or be a whole meditative practice. All you essentially do is repeat after me. I call my power back from any energy, person, place, entity, realm, or source who is holding my energy knowingly or unknowingly. I call my power back to me now. And so it is. And sometimes when I say I call my power back to me now, I snap my fingers, whatever animation you want to use or add to it, any body movement, anything extra that you want to add, you can. I usually do something a little, maybe a little more intricate or maybe a little differently sounding than that, but that is going to be the first step. And I noticed even in myself, as soon as I said that, I started to sit up a little bit straighter. I started to feel a little more connected and a little less like distracted, right? So that is step number one. So as I mentioned, I checked out this book from the library called Rewire, and it is not something I expected. I literally just stopped with it right in front of my face on the shelf, and it was about breaking cycles, right? So I checked it out and I had no idea what to expect. I started reading it and I experienced another crazy synchronicity. So my partner and I have started going to the gym. We just got a gym membership, and I was talking to my partner about how our bodies can run on cortisol and adrenaline, especially when we don't give them a reason to not do that, right? So things like eating a high protein meal or eating a big meal, slowing down, doing certain breathing techniques or somatic movements can really help lower cortisol before it raises itself up. And that was just a random conversation that we had a few days before I found this book. And then when I found this book, one of the first sentences in the book was about that. And a lot of it was about managing stress and understanding stress on a physiological level and how to physically break a cycle of just being stuck in self-sabotage. And it is so insane that I had this realization that I was stuck in self-sabotage, not just temporarily, not just for a week or something, but this is a greater perception of the cycle of self-sabotage I've been stuck in for almost the last 10 years. Like, it has been so long of going through these same cycles, and going through the cycle over and over has taught me what it actually looks like. And that is giving me the information that I need to actually break through it. Because of this idea of cortisol and adrenaline, I really wanted to talk about this for this Black Sheep community, because if you're like me, you may also have a CPTSD diagnosis, which is literally a stress disorder. We have experienced so much stress and so much difficulty in our own bodies. Even having like a greater amygdala can be something that's created by chronic stress, by long-term stress. And so we can have physical shifts in our bodies and in our brains from the stress that we have experienced before we even had any control over our lives. And it is so important for us to make ourselves sabotage proof by allowing ourselves to prioritize our bodies and our mind and movements and nourishment in order to prevent the high stress from taking over and making things worse than they already are. The second way to make yourself sabotage proof is by body work, by regulating your nervous system, by learning to work with your fear, learning to work with your anger, learning to transmute them, but not just letting them sit and eat at you. Like I said, we already have physiological responses to chronic stress, and over time, all they're doing is deteriorating your mental and physical health. So taking some of our power back looks like taking control of our bodies. How many hours a day are you spending doom scrolling, reading things, feeling anxious, sitting with terrible posture, and just not feeling well, right? This morning, I woke up with my hand so numb that I had to hold it with my other hand and I couldn't feel it at all. I thought that I was laying on something uncomfortable, and when I sort of woke up, I realized it was my own hand and it was completely numb and I had no sensation of it. Things like that are not helpful. Things like that are not us holding stress or us doing something or us taking action. They are just ways that we are contributing to our own harm. So I actually wanted to interrupt this podcast with a little bit of somatic work, somatic movement. I figured let's just take a minute to do it all together. So this isn't going to be too long of a practice. It's really just going to be the next couple of minutes. But I first started by just shaking out my body. Now, I just want to pause here and say that if you're driving or if you're somewhere where you can't do this somatic work, as you're driving or moving about your day, just try and become a little bit more aware of your breaths, taking deeper breaths, and just allowing yourself to still remind yourself that you are safe as you do so. After shaking my limbs around and taking some light stretches, I began to pat down my body. And this is just another way of kind of bringing awareness back to every part of my body. I also want to remind you here that nourishing your body and incorporating stillness and somatic practices into your routines can reduce the spiraling of cortisol and adrenaline, which can help reduce brain fog and help you make better decisions. Movement can also release anxious energy and help you focus on the same issues with a cleaner mind. So this is a reminder that it's not about bypassing any particular issue or anything that's going on in yourself and your personal life in the outer world. This is just about taking a moment to think clearly, to get your wits about you, and that is not wrong. We all deserve a moment of that, and that's what this is. I began to also rock on my heels back and forth, and then the final practice that I did is to keep your head completely still and move it from the left side all the way over to the right side. And you can pair this with your breathing, making sure you take a deep inhale as you move your head to one side over that shoulder, and exhaling as you bring your head back into the middle, and repeating that process on either side. And the reason it's important to keep your head still and to move it this way is because this actually stimulates the vagus nerve as well. So this can have a direct impact on how calm your body is able to feel. Now, the final part of this practice is going to take place over the next 2.5 minutes. We are just going to be completely silent together. So whether you're driving in your daily life or just watching this, just join me in 2.5 minutes of complete silence. You don't have to force yourself to do anything. You don't have to force your body to do anything, but just be silent. Just quiet the noise for 2.5 minutes. So the last major tip is to actually understand what the cycle of self-sabotage is, to try and break down some of the habits or some of the recurrences that keep getting in your way so that you can be more aware of it the next time. The thing about self-sabotage or these certain patterns are often our nervous system screaming out to us that we are not ready for the next level, or that we are just afraid, right? Something around is making us afraid, and that is what we need to confront. It's not that we need to get rid of fear. And even stress in general is not a bad thing. In that book, Rewire, one of the things that it was talking about was that the way that the human mind perceives stress actually changes how the human mind responds to it. Thinking that stress is bad or thinking that your body is being harmed when you are stressed is actually making the physical symptoms worse. So it's not about fearing stress. It's not about getting stressed about being stressed. It's just about understanding how all of these things are intertwined. Things like regulating your nervous system can help you break through the actual cycle within itself so that you can get to the next level by reminding your body that it is safe. And one of the ways that you can remind your body that it's safe is by incorporating those tools throughout your life, throughout your routine, and on a regular basis. So when I was talking about being sabotage proof earlier, that's essentially what I meant. You incorporating these little practices and routines in your life on a daily basis lowers the amount of cortisol you already have. It lowers the amount of adrenaline that you're building on a day-to-day basis. And because those things will naturally come up as a part of life, we want ourselves to be able to respond to those things in the moment when there is an actual threat, rather than them spiking all the time. And then when something big happens where we need to be aware, we no longer have that sense of self. We no longer have that awareness because we're already at a max of that acute stress. And something else that I've been learning in this book is that stress is good. And I think I kind of knew that, right? We know that that's how muscles grow. We know that that's how our body learns to adapt and learns to change, is by incorporating stress or greater weights when you're training and things like that. But to really think about the fact that stress can be good and that it doesn't have to be bad and it's not something we need to avoid is actually really helpful in modern day society, because we are constantly being fed these messages that are horrifying and then being told not to worry about it and not to stress about it. And that's just impossible. That's just not going to work. But I wanted to shed light on how our nervous system is connected to our self-sabotaging patterns. I want to share with you what some of my cycle looked like so you can see that it's more than just one thing. I would experience confusion and chaos. I would not be able to trust myself. I would second guess all of the decisions that I've already made, even though I knew why I'd made them. I would constantly be rushing. I wasn't regulating at all. I was slipping on all of my general health habits. Even things like not drinking that much caffeine usually would turn into drinking like 2 or 3 coffees a day just to keep myself going, then not being able to sleep at night, and then just feeling tired again the next day. I would just rush in general, which made me more clumsy, which made me spill things or drop things, which would then inevitably make me take longer, which would then make me rush even more. And all of these things constantly going wrong, all of the clumsiness and the rushing and feeling like I'm late and the dropping things and the confusion and the chaos and the insomnia, all of it would come together to just make me feel not like myself at all and make me feel like I shouldn't be trusting my decisions because I wasn't sound of mind. But it would then make me want to numb myself. It would make me want to escape what I was doing. It would make me want to doom scroll even longer and just stay glued to my phone. It would make me want to sit on my couch and just smoke or do nothing. It would make me want to procrastinate all of the things that I knew I had to do. And then that made me feel even more behind, which added to my feeling of being rushed. And so it turned into my business feeling a little unsure about where to go there, seeing how it was growing in certain ways, and then my body feeling like it was unsafe would then turn into this ripple effect that was affecting my daytime job. It was affecting my finances, like I said at the beginning of this video. It was affecting all of these different things, and some of it seemingly kind of came out of nowhere. So then my body had no choice but to respond in this frantic state, and all of that is not me. Like, I feel like I've worked very hard over a long period of time to make that not my reality, because like I said, that's exactly how I used to live every single day of my life when I was younger, and it was not good. it was not fulfilling, and I constantly was living in survival mode. It was literally survival mode revisiting me. And that's why I mentioned the details about the late payments and how that was fake, but happening at the same time. It was so confusing, but it was another example of the universe showing to me that something was off here, something was wrong. It was almost like this intentional triggering, because there was no actual reason behind a lot of these things that I was feeling and experiencing. But the constant poking and prodding of these triggers coming up against me was forcing me to deal with it. It was forcing me to break the cycles that I was in. It was forcing me to look at the cycles in the first place. And without putting all these pieces together, I would not have thought it was self-sabotage. Like I said, I would have thought it was just a string of bad luck, or maybe someone sent me evil eye, or something where I didn't have power over myself. And it was just me being a victim to all of these negative things happening directly to me. And I remember even taking a moment yesterday and being like, no, it's specifically not evil eye. It's not anything else. Like, I will still do my cleansing and I'll still do my protection, because that's a part of getting my power back to myself. But ultimately, I knew I had to take responsibility for this cycle that I was in. And it had been so long since it was difficult for me to break a cycle. I wasn't even really able to be very disciplined during these last few weeks. And it's just not me. But that's how I know that this is my past cycles coming up. This is my past limiting beliefs. This is all the things that I'm meant to be shedding to create this new life. These are all the things that have been holding me down. And there's been a lot of grief involved as well, not just for my community, not just for what I'm seeing on a daily basis that is just heartbreaking and enraging, but it's also this grieving of all the parts of myself that I can't take forward, all the parts of my reality that I know are also being left behind. It's so much. And I think so many of us are feeling this way. And this is the final moments of the year of the wood snake. We are moving into the fire horse. And this wood snake energy is coming for all of us in a way. It is reminding you that there are things that cannot be moving forward, and that by releasing these things, you are ultimately committing to your purpose. You are committing to your purpose of how you are meant to grow in this collective, how you are meant to contribute, how you are meant to embody your role, whether that's a role of a teacher or a leader or a visionary or a dreamer or someone on the front lines. Like, we are all incorporating parts of ourselves into this, but we have to learn how to recognize the parts that are not truly ourselves and move through them so that we can get to the next phase, so that we can birth what is new and what we all need from one another. The last video that I recorded didn't fully save, so I don't remember exactly where I left off or what got left out, but I just wanted to say that I hope you enjoyed this new style and format of video. I don't know if I'm going to do this every week, but I just wanted to get a little more creative with the podcast this week. If you were listening on just the audio, I highly recommend hopping on YouTube and actually watching the video, because it was a little bit more vlog style, and you can see the somatic movement routine and do that with me next time that you are not driving or busy at work. But I also wanted to mention here that if you liked kind of hanging out with me and doing this somatic work with me and incorporating these different factors into the episode, you should really check out the self-worth blueprint for Black Sheep and Cycle Breakers. It is one of the coolest things I have ever created. I had a setup just like this. There was a thunderstorm rolling outside. The lights were all dim. I had just some candles set up, and we did a 1-hour somatic movement routine that was fully modifiable. It's low mobility friendly and depression friendly. And as someone that has spent many years of my life depressed, this is like life-changing for me. I've never seen anything like this out there. And I also included EFT tapping specifically around self-worth for Black Sheep and Cycle Breakers. I created lessons in there about major ways that your toxic family impacted your self-worth and how those worthiness wounds are still being carried out in your relationships, in your jobs. And I got so nitty-gritty so you can really see how these things are playing out and trace them back to where they started. And not only that, but I also created an interactive journal and workbook so that you can specifically tie all of these circumstances finances and all of these kind of broader thoughts directly into your life. It will teach you and walk you through how to recognize when these patterns are showing up so that you can get really defined and specific around them and learn how to break these cycles, or learn how to recognize where you are not standing in your highest self-worth. And I know it's in the title, but I just want to reiterate, like, this is specifically around self-worth wounds that are created for this community of Black Sheep and cycle breakers. It is not for anyone else. And that's what I love about this course so much, is it's so specific and it's just talking to you. So much of the self-help stuff out there or the wellness stuff just doesn't even apply to us, and it just needs to be filtered out, right? So I did that for you and created something that is specifically just for you. So you can find out more about that at blacksheepexperience.com. Again, it's called the Self-Worth Blueprint for Black Sheep and Cycle Breakers. Otherwise, I do have one-on-one coaching sessions still available. You can find those on my website as well. I'm sending you so much love, and remember that you're worthy whether you believe it or not. Thanks for tuning in today, Black Sheep. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and share it with your chosen family. Visit blacksheepexperience.com to book a self-worth coaching session, tarot reading, or to enroll in the Self-Worth Blueprint for Black Sheep and Cycle Breakers. Follow Black Sheep Experience on Instagram to stay tapped into upcoming events and resources for the Black Sheep Collective. Take good care of yourself and your community, and I'll see you next week.